Hello all and welcome to the Indy Pro 2000 Week 3 here from Suzuka Circuit. It should be a fun one today. We've had a street circuit for Week 1, an oval for Week 2, and now a proper Grand Prix circuit for Week 3. My name is Jonathan Burke. Alongside me is not Paul Smith, it is Tom Davis rejoining us after 2 weeks away. Tyler Maxon is in the production booth, and cameras provided by iRacing.com and Istvan Balo for this one. As cars are now on track for their practice and qualifying session. And there we go, there's the proper name of Tom Davis up on the screen. We're here from Suzuka, Japan, just an hour and a half's drive away from Kyoto, near the icy bay. 3.5 miles, 5.7 kilometers. It's a pleasant simulated day here in Suzuka. There's 75 degrees out, 78 degrees the track temp. A light breeze shouldn't really disturb the cars too much. There's not a lot of aero on these things compared to a Formula 1 car or a Super Formula car that normally goes around here. Suzuka hosts the Formula 1 Japan Grand Prix Super Formula races here, endurance races here, but the Pro Mazda, it should be here. And Tom, how excited are you to see this race? We've had a street circuit, we've had an oval, but this is the first proper road course we've seen on the schedule.
Oh, I can't wait, I can't wait. As everybody knows, I'm not from America, so for me, coming from the UK, it's all about this road racing, as we call it, you know, proper circuits, full-on laps, and they don't get much more full-on than Suzuka. You got trail braking through turns 1 and 2, then all about conservation of momentum as you go up the hill. Then you get a couple slow corners at 9 and turn 11, and then it's all quick towards the end of the lap, with the exception of that tricky final chicane that I'm sure we'll see a few optimistic moves, to say the least.
At the Casio Triangle, as it's called, turns 16, 17, and 18. Should be exciting to see some of those passing moves, but passing here is going to be rough. You mentioned it's a lot of full speed and a lot of getting on and off the throttle. It's going to be really hard, I think, for these drivers to get a good optimal move done.
There's a few opportunities, isn't there? You know, like you mentioned, less error than in Formula 1, so the cars won't space out as you might have seen in other single-seater categories, so they will be able to stay close together, but you're not going to get a move done once you're past turn 1 until probably around about the hairpin at turn 11. You can certainly do a lunge there. And then you're probably going to have to wait until the chicane. Now, that's if you're being sensible. We have seen in the Indy Pro 2000s people happy to try an optimistic move every now and again, you know, play a little bit of chicken. And if you're happy to make those kind of aggressive attacks, then pretty much any corner you want can be an overtaking opportunity around here. It's just a case of how careful these guys are being and whether or not they're already thinking about the championship.
We saw in week 1, you know, talking about places not to pass, the fountain area on Long Beach is one not to pass, but Greg Seitz and his teammate were going at it through the fountain section side by side. So maybe he'll find a way to pass. And we're riding on board with Greg Seitz, who's beginning, I believe, his first qualifying lap. And this is a man who has been dominant in this car. He's raced Suzuka 7 times this week in the official series. He's gotten podiums in all 7 of his attempts. So he's going to be the man to beat here today.
Yeah, it's a pretty good track record, you'd have to say, isn't it? Getting a podium every time out. He's traditionally tidy as he comes through the first sector, you know, not the rear end sliding away or any sort of those shenanigans. Just put it on the line, hold the maximum speed, and keep it on that crucial point of maximum grip just before the tyre starts to slip. Avoid the curb, no need to unsettle the car there, and then you're flat out towards turns 8 and 9.
This is one of the only Formula 1 grade tracks that is a figure 8. We're going through turn 9 right now, and then underneath this bridge, it's a beautiful area for spectators to view, and it's a beautiful area for us to view during this race, as right now it looks like Sainz has yet to put a lap in. Imberg and Chin and Ashton currently the top 3. Joshua Chin, an amazing charge last week in New Hampshire, taken away by a caution. Jack Ashton proved to be a valiant defender and a very good aggressive driver last week as well. They're both in the hunt for the championship, but this is going to be the man you're going to have to stop today, is Greg Seitz.
Yeah, he's looking on good form so far. This one, of course, has been world-renowned. You can look at any number of miraculous moves down there, and there'll probably be a spin or a little bit of contact for every single one that's been made, and then it's all about preparing for 130R. Shouldn't be too tricky, obviously. You know, modern cars can take it much more easily than the fast racing cars have gone by, but at the same time, you make a small little mistake, get up on the curb, it will still bite you, and then you're braking into the final chicane. Hop over each of the inside apex curves. You can run it over the flat one on the exit as well, and then take the line of minimum resistance. Hopefully it's a good lap for Greg as he comes across the line. Although, where is it? There we go. There we go. Greg pops up P3, only 2 tenths away, but the guy ahead of him is under a tenth away, so he's got a little bit of time to find before he gets himself on the front row, but not a bad lap, you have to say. It's hard to call anything that puts you on the front couple rows a bad lap. Ashton improves, as does Bernstorff now, to go up onto the front row.
Yeah, this is looking like going to be a proper, exciting race, and I think the concern, for a lot of these drivers is going to be that first lap going through the snake in that S section side by side. It may not be optimal, I think, for a lot of drivers.
Yeah, it can get tricky. It can get tricky. It's about respecting the driver on either side. If nobody tries to run somebody out of room or take a little bit too much of a squeeze towards the apex, then they'll all get fine. It's not like there's not enough space for the cars at any point, but it's balancing that with all the drivers wanting to make up places and not lose them. And as soon as you get competition involved, I'm sure they'll have to be very, very careful not to have contact, because it's not a conventional overtaking spot anywhere other than lap 1.
You know, despite we're talking about trouble and chaos, someone who's been staying out of the chaos has been Jack Ashton. He has 3 podiums this week and has yet to record a single incident point in any of his races. So look for that number 7 machine, the Ford Zilla driver, maybe to be a factor. He's currently starting fourth as Sainz is on, I believe, his second lap. He might make it. I think he's in the final sector now. But it'll be interesting to see. And we have different players in the front few spots. Joshua Chwin from last week, obviously on pole right now, but Bernstoff, someone we haven't seen, and neither has Imberg, starting P2 and P3. But they're, no slouches either. Numbers are done by iRating, so 4 and 5, they're already up there.
Yeah, they're right up there. You mentioned Ashton. I think my favorite stat that I've spotted so far is that in all of the weeks up to now, so everything included in 2021 season 1, you have Ashton leading 434 laps. Chin, who leads the championship, only 87 laps, but he's got more points. So it's all about leading when you cross the line for the final time, and I think that shows it perfectly.
And here are the current standings. Joshua Chin, Jack Ashton, Everett Paddock, Nikita Lashton, and Frank Newen currently in the top 3. Sewitz, Zygar, Engels, Rathburn, and Remedy in the top 10. You don't see Greg Seitz up there, although I believe on the site it does say he's up in the standings. So we need to double check that real quick. And let's look at the schedule to see what is on. We're here at Suzuka. It's the first proper road course of the year. We're going to 4 tracks with Formula 1 also races. And here's also the starting grid as cars are going to be lining up. Joshua Chin and Greg Seitz share that front row. Emil Bernstoff and Thomas Einberg 3 and 4. Jack Ashton lines up 5th. Every Paddock lines up in P6. Mitchell Ian Green from Pennsylvania in P7. Hugo Martez in P8. Nikita Laushkin in P9. Stefan Remedy rounds out the top 10. Thomas Zygar in 11. Jean-Michael Newan in P12. Luke Barbe in P13, the number 3 car, a little bit further back probably than he wants. Mark Dressen, the 19 machine, in P14. Frank Newen, a guy who's normally around the top 5, in 15th. He's going to have some work to do. And Shane Sewitz in P16. Fabio Borchold in the number 11 in P17. Andrew Barry, we've seen up in that top 10 fight in P18. David Mitch-Holsker, first time we're seeing that name, in P19. And Tony Stock in P20. That should round out your field. We have 20 cars. We did get 2 splits, 40 drivers registered, 2 splits, and 20 drivers in the top 1. It'll be a shortened pace lap here. You can see they're already halfway done. And this should be an exciting first few corners. You can see that run down to turn 1. It's going to be crucial. And I think Sainz and Chin are going to be a little bit of a sitting duck here.
Oh, it's going to be tricky, isn't it? There's a slipstream down towards turn 1, and then it's not actually beneficial to be on the inside every single time on the first lap. Obviously, after that, as we go through, you want to defend the inside, but the first time there, you often see moves around the outside, people braving it as we go through the first couple corners, because it sets you up very nicely to have the inside as you enter that twisty section that completes Sector 1. So, lots of opportunities available, and crucially, none of them better than the other, which is always going to create good racing.
And now a full pace lap here. We're already almost done in the Casio Triangle. We go 16, 17, and 18, and the Porsche pace car will peel off. Joshua Chin, the king of chins, on the inside. Greg Seitz on the outside. It's going to be wild to see them go through one as Chin is off and we're already away. He's going to try and gap the field as best he can. Green flag is out. Seitz has to defend from Emberg and Bernstoff in that second row. And that number 2 machine is gone quickly. Everyone's scattering behind trying to make up positions right now. They're going through the first corner. Looks like all neat and tidy for now. Seitz is able to hold off Emberg and Bernstoff to keep P2, but Joshua Chin is trying to check out. Now we go into the tricky S section. This is getting a section you don't want to be side by side, but in the first lap, you can't really help it. Everyone's running so close together.
Perfect start there from your leader, Joshua Chin. He leapt away from Greg Seitz, who was left covering the inside, covering the outside. Somehow managed to do both. Here is the 16 car of Mitchell Ian Green. Nice and tidy, but still a little bit neck and neck, door to door as they come towards turn number 8. That one narrows, and then you're already braking into the 9th corner. All about setting up a move on the traction, because if you can get close enough, here's the hairpin that we spoke about. It's got to be a lunge. You're never going to get alongside, but it is very much a doable lunge. And here comes the 6, a lock up ahead as well. Just about bails out of that one in time, but Hugo Martinez was close enough to maybe have another go next time around.
That was Everett Paddock that was locking up right ahead. Bernstoff did get passed by Jack Ashton, and Ashton is now free to chase after the number 5 machine of Emberg. As around the outside goes Stefan Remedy. He's using a bit more of the track than he wants probably at the moment. And Martinez looking to the inside of Mitchell Green. Mitchell Green has been proven to be a very valiant defender in every position he gets. This is one of the highest he's run so far this season in P7, but now this long straighter with the draft might leave that 16 out to dry, and indeed it does. Around goes the 6. A little bit off there, though. That's going to cost some time. We're almost 3 wide heading into this tight chicane, and we are 3 wide. A little bit of contact, and the 16 gets tagged by the 6. Around goes Mitchell Green, and Hugo Martinez might have a slight front wing and suspension damage from that, but 3 wide to the Casio Triangle is not where you want to be.
No, you could see it coming, couldn't you? So here, we're almost 3 wide, but keep your eye on that silver car, because he thinks he's the bee's knees. He's come back underneath, but there's never going to be space for 3 cars. Just gets a little tag, but fortunately not all the way around, so he's able to get going nice and quickly.
Someone that's struggling right now is Everett Paddock. He's locked it up several times, and Joshua Chin got up to a brilliant lead, but here comes Greg Seitz, but he hasn't dropped Thomas Emberg. Emberg is right behind that number 1 machine, and I'm wondering if Seitz is going to have to be worried about defending, as there goes Thomas Emberg spinning off in the background. I don't know if he's hit anything besides maybe a couple cones that he's taken victim, but that is going to ruin the 4's chances, excuse me, as he slowly gets back underway.
This will have been terrifying for Ashton. Keep an eye just behind, but the 5 just touches up on the grass, slides around, and Ashton flies off wide in an attempt to avoid.
That was actually Everett Paddock that was flying off in the number 8 machine, as Ashton had to go the long way around as well. Ashton has gotten around the 8, so Ashton moved him into the podium places, as now Joshua Chin and Greg Seitz might be free to fight among themselves. They have 2.5 seconds back to the Fordzilla driver, but it's been a crazy few couple of laps, and you notice, kind of the reason that car spun off was he was really close to Greg Seitz. You lose that front downforce, you could be around.
It is that simple, isn't it? You lose the front downforce, drift a little bit wide, and then the grip's not there anymore. But at the front, 2 leads the 1. Joshua Chin, he's got Greg Seitz back on him. Greg Seitz no longer looking in the mirrors, and he's got his eyes locked onto that first position, trying to put the number 1 in P1.
And this is going to be the best fight for the lead. Probably we're going to see this race. If Greg Seitz can get ahead, his time trial time is half a second faster than second place in the entire series, and his fastest lap time among every driver is 0.3 of a second faster than anyone in the series. So this number 1 machine knows how to drive here at Suzuka. However, faster last time was Joshua Chin, and Seitz does have to be careful. He doesn't want to really lose that front downforce on that front wing. We saw what happened last time.
I'm sure he'll be careful. He had a perfect view of that one as well. He'll be keeping an eye in his mirrors, make sure that he wasn't about to get mugged into one of these corners. And he'll have seen the car spinning off behind, and he'll be very aware that it's all on him, really. He's got to find a way past. And as we mentioned, it is doable, but if you're thinking about the championship, as both of these guys are, it's not easy. It's hard to get the overlap, to get the simple move done. Instead, you're often looking at on the brakes, braving it out around the outside to set something up. You gotta create something. You can't just sit and wait for it to happen for you.
In this case, Greg Seitz might want to wait and see what happens to Chin on the long runs. We do have 16 laps here around this circuit. We're only done with 3, so maybe the 2-car falls off a little bit. The temperature certainly not going to eat up the tires too much. There's going to be plenty of grip for both of these two as the race goes on, but maybe wants to be patient here as we look back into the midfield, which is driving like crazy. Green and Nguyen. Green trying to recover from that early spin. Right now, look, Barb is kind of holding everyone up. They got Nguyen right behind, and the number 9, that's Frank Nguyen, sliding a little bit. He's got Suis for company right behind. And this is going to be a really close battle in the midfield, I think, throughout this entire race.
Oh, it always is going to be, isn't it? There's just enough straights for there to be a slipstream, and that might be exactly what Seitz has done. Gets a fantastic move done on the brakes there. Nice and clean, left plenty of space by Chin. Chin knows what he's going to do, because he's got to try and get the slipstream, but there's another car spinning. Which one's that? Just disappeared beneath it. That's Stefan Remedy dropping down the order. He was running nicely as well, but here comes Joshua Chin. He was behind at the line. There's a little bit of contact as
well.
they break.
They collide! The 2
Both
lead
off.
cars collide in the corner. Seitz and Chin go around in the first corner. Thomas Emberg is going to take the lead. Jack Ashton moves to second. Everett Paddock to third. Oh no, they got it done cleanly in the chicane. But Seitz and Chin were too aggressive. Sainz moves over, a little bit of contact right there, and then boom goes the dynamite. They spin off into the gravel. Sainz is the first one that gets back going. He remains P5. Chin falls to P6. There's the first contact. There's the second hit. And this may be critical damage to both these drivers. They may not be able to make it back into the podium.
That was unnecessary to say. Here's the other one. This is going to be the 2 car.
Now, where this is live pictures again.
This is live again. I was about to say. Thought I saw a replay sign. Don't think it was. Yeah. But here's your leader then. Thomas Imberg in the 5. Been given an absolute gift. He's got to keep going though. Got to keep on the pressure, because if anybody is who you don't want behind, it's got to be Jack Ashton. Of course, he's led so many laps this season already. We hope to get a few more under his belt, as classically side by side in the hairpin they go. And the 7 and the 6 locked in a battle as well. That's not the 6, that is the 8. The 7 and the 8 locked in a battle. They'll get the slipstream down towards 130 R. We're about to get another bit of action.
Paddock has been the one locking up on the first few laps, but looks like he's been able to warm up those tires, and now down into the Casio Triangle we go again. It looks like the 8's going to get it done, or 130R, excuse me. And Ashton moves back into 3rd place. And this is just a gift more to Thomas Imberg. He's able to get a 1.5 second gap now for the race lead, as Martinez is going to be under fire from Greg Seitz here shortly. Here's a view from the Fordzilla driver. He drives in the Carb Cup for Ivor competition. He's one of the more aggressive drivers you see in the field, and he's got the slipstream down into 1, but he's a little bit too far back on this occasion to make a move. He thought about making a lunge. He's thinking about making a lunge. Is Jack Ashton. He's closer and closer and closer, but now through the S section, I don't know how close you can stay right now.
There's a slip on the rear tires of the car ahead as they got on the power as well, so something's not working for Everett Paddock. Every now and again, he seems to lose the tires. Maybe they get too hot or too cold. His driving style maybe getting a little bit too aggressive. Something is not allowing that car to stay underneath him in the same way that Jack Ashton's got his beneath him.
And he's also been the one locking up in the first few laps. He hasn't locked up in a while, but it's a bit of a concern. Everett Paddock is maybe just be driving the wheels off this thing. Who knows? He's sitting P2, and oh no, off into the wall goes the 8 machine. A disaster, running in the podium places, and now all of a sudden he's going to have to get a tow back to the pit lane.
Yeah, that's not ideal to say the least. You said it perfectly. Driving the wheels off the machine, and now there might not be quite so many wheels on it as a consequence of that. Here's your leader, Thomas Imberg in the 5. He's got a nice little healthy gap, 2.5 seconds over Jack Ashton, so that's gone up. We'll see as a result of Jack Ashton having a fight, and here comes a little bit of a replay. So, the 7 car following, nice and tight, applying the pressure, and what happens to the 8? Driving the wheels off it, gets up on the AstroTurf, and that's actually a mirror image of what we've seen so many drivers do in Formula 1. I think it was it Kimi Räikkönen did something like that, and Valtteri Bottas in recent years. It's so easy to do. You lose the grip, the car snaps, and there's a wall there to greet you.
And the grass is like ice a lot of times in these cars, and Greg Seitz very lucky to escape with minimal damage. He almost got hit by that 8 car sliding back onto the track, but now it might just be a two-way fight between Imberg and Ashton. Martinez is not too far behind. We haven't really talked about Hugo Martinez in the 6 car. He's sitting in the podium places, but he's got Greg Seitz for company as Imberg runs the fastest lap of the race, almost a second faster than Jack Ashton, a 53.6. Ashton was a 54.3. Both of them on their best laps, but here we go. Here's the fight for the final podium spot. Sainz trying to recover from that contact with Joshua Chin. Joshua Chin had a pit for damage repairs. He's down in 17th as Seitz trying to set his sights on Hugo Martinez, but Martinez has really held strong.
Yeah, it's a good drive from Hugo, isn't it? Keeping it in there, just not making any mistakes, and as a result, Seitz is there. He's applying the pressure, and he's probably quicker given the initial pace, but there's no gap for him to put that Indy Pro 2000 car in. He's got to keep on going, and there was almost a repeat of the moment we saw just a second ago as he got on the power, got up the rear end a little bit squirrely, but gathered it up in time for braking towards that lovely banked hairpin. Couple lines through that one as a result of the banking, but not had that come into play quite yet, and they're accelerating towards Spoon once again.
Yeah, Sainz a little bit too far back to make any sort of lunge. They both hit the toe from Ashton, however, which I think is something that's keeping the 6 ahead of the 1 machine for now, although Sainz may be trying to be a bit more patient after that earlier spin with Joshua Chin. We'll see if Chin can recover. He's 16 seconds behind the nearest car of Jean-Michel Nguyen. So it might be a day's over for the 2 machine, but here we go. Sainz looking. He's going to back out of it for now, but he is right on the gearbox. He may be looking down into the Casio triangle. Thinks better of it this time. He stays behind the 6 machine for now, but he's going to get a big draft into the first corner.
He lined up the exit really nicely too. Got that car pivoted with such ease. Here is a little bit of a fight further back. The number 10, Thomas Zeiger, remember, he was right there in the championship all the way through last season, looking to make up yet another position on Nikita Lastichin. Descending towards turn 1, it suddenly dips down the way, which is why it's so tricky to try and maintain consistent turning. And throughout all of that, whilst we looked away, this fight has gotten ever closer. Jack Ashton now dropping back towards both Hugo Martinez and Greg Seitz. So Seitz, he might still be on for even a second place here, despite that crucial error just a couple laps ago.
It doesn't seem like it's hurt his car in too bad of a way. However, Martinez is proving to be a very tough customer to pass right now. He actually was a bit faster than Seitz and Ashton last time by, and we know how defensive Ashton can be. We saw last week at New Hampshire, and if you watch any RaceSpotTV and you've seen the Ivor Series, you see how aggressive and defensive this Ford Zilla driver can really get. And it's going to be tough, I think, for Greg Seitz to get a second, but it's certainly not out of the question. However, with these 3 fighting, Thomas Enberg has just said goodbye. He's got 2.8 seconds and really no one to fight with at the moment.
It's going up every sector as well. That was 2.5 when I checked at the beginning of the lap. It is increasing at a considerable rate every single corner that Jack Ashton has to go a little bit defensive, and there Greg Seitz takes advantage of the 6 not going defensive, gets a run up the inside, but might have to try and do it with pure bravery as they head towards 130R. He's not got his car all the way ahead, didn't get on the power quite as well as the 6, which is hanging it out. He'll have to go the long way around, not quite going to make it work, and Greg Seitz gains the position back up onto the podium for the number 1.
And the 6 was a little bit sloppy there out of Spoon corner. You can see that back end getting a little shaky, but he's still within touching distance of Greg Seitz. However, due to that intense battle, they've almost lost a second to Jack Ashton. As now you can see the swerving. They're trying to break each other's draft as much as they can down into 1. And Seitz is going to be setting his sights on Jack Ashton, and that's going to be an intense battle for second place. And Martinez looks like he's going to have 4th place pretty much secure. You know, that's the worst I think his day will get. As we look back into the field, here's Lashkinen at the edge of the top 5, and Thomas Zeiger has been knocking on his door. But Barbie in the number 3, I said he's going to have to make up places in that 3 car, despite starting back in the 14th position, is all the way up to 7th.
Yeah, good drive from Loic, isn't it? He's closing in as well, there or thereabouts, and when these cars ahead are getting closer, it just provides you with that little bit of a mental boost. You go, I can get these guys, you know what, I might be able to get the next guys as well, because I'm clearly quicker than these guys. What's to say that I'm not the fastest guy around at the moment? And gives you that little bit of a confidence booster that at the moment Nikita Lastichin might not have, because he's the one who's got a couple cars in his mirror. He's the one with all the pressure mounting on his shoulders.
Well, confidence boost for him is that he is ranked the weakest driver in this field, in this split in the number 20 machine, but he's definitely not showing he's a weak driver. He's running P5, and he's been running P5 for the past few laps. Zeiger's really not been able to find a way to get around. It's really tough, I think, to pass at the moment without making a dangerous lunge that puts you and the other driver in danger.
It's a tricky one. It is a tricky one, isn't it? The 20 now just getting a little bit of a gap because behind him, that car in the middle, forced to defend. And as a result, look, Barbie's now the one going aggressive. Pulls to the outside towards 130R, and he's got the move done before they even get there. Pulls it down to the apex, easy as you like. Tell you what, you wanted a textbook slipstream move. There it is. The 3 does it absolutely perfectly. Now it's his turn to see if he can get past Nikita. So far, nobody's been able to, but he's going to give it a go.
As Zeiger did not get a good run out of Spoon corner. That seems to be your kryptonite. If you don't get a good run out of turns 13 and 14, you're pretty much doomed going into the Casio triangle, because that slipstream is oh so powerful. As we head now down into the first corner, a bit of gapping now starting to form as we look back for the battle for second place, and Greg Seitz is slowly getting ever so closer to Jack Ashton, and he might be able to make a move in the next lap or 2 depending on if Ashton makes a mistake.
Looks a bit more raggedy, though, to say the least. You can tell that this has become somewhat of an emotional drive as opposed to a calculated one for Greg Seitz. He's trying to make up for that error, trying to make sure that he maximizes the points. As a result, the car is just sliding around a little bit more. It's using a bit more of the road, and with what, 7-8 laps still to go, he's got to be careful.
It gets very, very close to the gearbox of Jack Ashton there, but now they're going to make their way down into turn 12 and into the spoon curve. And if Ashton has a slip up here, we've already seen it time and time again, you can get a really good slipstream. But Ashton has been quite tidy so far, no mistakes. And I mentioned earlier, he's gotten 0 incident points in the 4 races he's driven and the 3 podiums he's received. And Ashton may be on track for another podium, but here we go. He's going to try and play defensive, go to the inside, go to the outside, breaking the draft of the number 1 machine as much as he can. He knows Greg Seitz is coming like a hungry shark. He's looking for blood. Here comes the number 1 machine down into 130R. And he's able to barely clear the 7. The 7 has to get out of the throttle and move Seitz back up into P2. But he's going to be running out of time here. There's going to be only 6 laps left when Enberg crosses the line. It's 3.2 seconds, the gap. And Thomas Enberg has been driving the wheels off that machine. He's got a 53.8 to his name. It's going to be really tough to catch. As we look back here at another battle, here comes Barb. He started 14th, move him up into the top 5. He's looking to the inside of Lashkinen, and he's going to get the move done into the first corner.
It's perfect, isn't it? Exactly how you want to do it. None of this side-by-side through 130R nonsense. Just have the corner, have it all to yourself, and take the line that is the safest and quickest one that you can possibly find. And it was lovely, wasn't it? And Greg Seitz, his move, as we mentioned, a little bit more emotional through 130R. He was keeping his foot forward there, regardless of where Jack Ashton was. And Ashton showed why he's got no incidence points. He knew that was coming and just kind of said, you know what? Let's let this go. I don't want to be the next one on your hit list.
No, I think contact there would have been brutal for both of those drivers. A lost front wing or something like that could have ended both of their podium chances. But now here we go back into a little bit of a midfield battle right now. That's Frank Newen leading the charge in 10th place. Andrew Barry, Tony Stack, Berthold right behind, and not too far ahead of Newen is Mark Dressen in the 19. As these drivers have been going at it for quite some time, but the lead battle has been so intriguing we haven't been able to get a view of it. As Barry almost gets rear-ended by Tony Stack, and there's going to be a lot of slipstreaming down into these next few corners.
Yeah, I think melee is the word to describe what's going on here. There's blows left, right, and center. Everybody defensive and aggressive at the same time. Frank Newen just about fought off the 14, but he's trying to keep that gap ahead to Mark Dennison as low as it can possibly be, because he wants to be the one making the moves, gaining the slipstream on this back one, as I'm sure we're about to see absolute chaos unfold.
Tony Stack does have the best slipstream of the available to Andrew Barry. He's looking to the inside, looking outside, trying to break the toe right now. Is everyone in this field, really? As it looks like Berthold had a little bit of an issue. I'm sorry, not Berthold, the 19 of Dressen had a bit of an issue through 130R. That's allowed Frank Newen to really, really close the gap. And these 6 cars, you can throw a blanket underneath of them, are going to be getting a huge slipstream down in this first corner. There's the 13 of Stewart's running a little bit all by himself at the moment. Just has this giant scrap to view in his rear view mirror. As they go down to the first corner, no one thinks about a lunge. But you know they're all thinking about a major lunge down to this corner. This is the edge of the top 10 that everyone's kind of fighting for.
It's all getting a little bit frisky, isn't it? The 19 at the front of this one, maybe holding them up just a little bit, but not enough to allow them past, which as a result just is causing a little bit of a stopper in the bottle effect. Everybody behind them getting more and more frustrated. Everybody trying to make up positions on each other, and he's allowed just to sit at the front of this. The other thing you should keep your eye on, by the way, Greg Seitz, last time around, fastest lap of the race, 0.3 of a second quicker than Thomas Enberg, which means that he should catch him pretty much on the last lap. It's going to be exceptionally tight for the winner.
Catching is one thing, passing is another. We've already seen Seitz get held up by Ashton, and we're seeing in this group as well, passing is not easy. The 19 maybe the slowest car of these 6 here, but they're not being able to find a way past at the moment. The 19 is doing a really good job putting that car exactly where he wants it in the defensive lines. As we now head into the spoon curve, turns 13 and 14. This is where we see a lot of drivers, go wrong. If you get a little loose coming out of 14, it could be all over for you.
It could. How many times have we said it? You need a good run out of this one. Get on the traction. Everybody's done that really nicely, actually. So it's all going to be about the slipstream, which means the guy at the back is going to be the quickest, guy at the front the slowest, which is the opposite to what you would normally expect. Up towards 130R we go then. Is anybody close enough to try and move? Not quite. But Nguyen's closing all the time. He's forcing the car ahead to go defensive. On the brakes, not quite close enough. The 19 drifts a little bit deep, but it's not enough to open up the immediate move, but it might be enough to open it up into turn number 1.
A healthy dose of slipstream for really everyone here, as now Barry looks like he's closer to Nguyen than he was in the previous lap, but here comes Frank Nguyen, the Canadian, down to the inside of the Mark Dress, and he's going to be able to make it stick. We've already seen one overtake go wrong in the first corner, and it looks like Frank Nguyen is able to make it stick. He gets around Dressen. Into 9th place goes the 9 machine, and now Andrew Barry wants a piece of Dressen as they head through the S's, but this is not a place you want to be side by side. Everyone kind of stays single file, and Frank Nguyen can now try and go and get after Shane Seward, who's about 3 seconds ahead of them, but they're running out of time, really. This might be the only positions you can make up at the moment for these guys.
Yeah, they're a little way away from the guys up ahead. Frank Nguyen would have about 3 seconds to close in, so he'd have to be really shifting if he wanted to get up there. That's very tight just back there. Andrew L. Berry now looking as if he's a little bit of a stopper through those particular corners. He's left himself a little bit vulnerable to Tony Stack as they come towards turn number 11. Is anybody going to be close enough to try it? Not entirely sure, although that is a lovely, lovely tree. The 20 has the move done, however, into Spoon. That's absolutely lovely from Thomas Zeigerts. He's finally found a way past Nikita. Has he?
No, I believe that Nikita's on the defensive. Nikita's been able to hold off the 10.
Nikita held it off behind the tree, and as a result, got a lovely run down towards 130R. And he should have enough of an overlap there to fend him off for yet another lap. So he'll have 12 onto the books and only a few left to go if he wants to hold on to that 6th position.
And again, I mentioned the gaps, and here comes the 15. Oh no, that's the 18 of Mitch Holzer, who was at the end of this group, has now overtaken 2 cars. He's taken over Birchall and he's taken over Stock, and now the 18 all of a sudden is on the hard charge in that Castrol machine. He's gotten 2 positions in 1 lap as we go back to the fight for 6th position. Lauschkinen defending aggressively on the inside, but Zeiger is looking and looking. These are probably the only 2 places the D-Drives will compete for the 10. Spins, locks it up, he's able to save it. But now he's going to have to be worried about Shane Stewart's. He's a bit too far back, really, to get a pass. They had almost 8 seconds back to the 13 machine, so it looks like Zeiger's going to be able to hold on to 7th place. But that was a really tense moment for the number 10 machine.
Yeah, that's a take a breather, that is. That's okay. I think 7th position is enough. You know, you just sit down and speak to yourself. Here's Greg Seitz. The number 1 machine is closing the gap to the leader. He's there or thereabouts. Last time around, 0.6 of a second quicker. He was on a new fastest lap of the race, although I do believe he invalidated at some point, went a little bit beyond track limits. What's more encouraging for Greg is that Thomas Inberg's getting slower. Last time around he did a 1:53.8. The previous lap it was a 1:53.7. The lap before that it was a 1:53.6. So every single lap Thomas is losing a 10th, which means that arguably Greg doesn't even have to try and get quicker. He can just let Thomas fall back towards him, and he's closing it down. He should get there now. He's got around about 4/10 a lap for 3 more laps after this one. That's 1.2 seconds. He needs 1.9. So he'll be close enough to think about a lunge, but not close enough to just be in front on aggregate time. Obviously, you still have to get the move done, but it's going to be tight.
Goes faster, 1:53.3 that time, but Inberg responds with a 1:53.5. The worst enemy right now for the 1 car is time. He just does not have enough time, I don't think, to really close this gap unless that 5 machine makes a mistake. And I think the key to this race for Thomas Inberg, you know, being out front is he hasn't made a mistake. All race long, he's been able to keep it clean as we go back to this midfield scrap. And all of a sudden, Mitch Holzer looks like he's the aggressor. Nguyen has been able to drop this field a little bit and go after Stewart's. But this mid-pack fighting for the edge of the top 10. Dressen is trying to hold on to that 10th position, but Andrew Barry looks to the outside. The 19 has to get defensive. And Mitch Holzer has been the biggest mover. He's moved to 2 positions last time around, stayed stationary last lap. And now the 14 is looking inside, looking outside through the S's. This is not a place you want to overtake, but Andrew Barry knows the clock is ticking. Time is running out. He needs to get past this 19 machine.
Yeah, and when you start to get a little bit desperate, this is when we might see those lunges we were talking about right back at the top of the show. Andrew's so close. Clearly has the ability to carry a bit more speed, but he's compromised himself now, which opens the gap to Mark up once again. It's actually Andrew that comes under pressure. That is incredibly tight. There goes David Mittelholzer now up into P11. It's his turn to have a go at Mark, assuming that Andrew doesn't immediately fight back. He's got the slipstream towards turn number 11. Is he going to be close enough? No. Is the 15 close enough? He actually had a little bit of a think about it, I think, in that yellow and green machine, but also not quite near enough to try the infamous lunge.
Mittelholzer, when we started looking at this fight, was in P14, and all of a sudden that 18 machine has come alive, and now he's only half a second behind Mark Dressen, and now Andrew Berry's under heavy fire from Tony Stock. And again, this is the edges of the top 10, as last lap again, Greg Seitz going fastest, but he's running out of time. He only has 2 laps left and a second and a half to go. This is really the closest battle on track, is this midfield battle. Berry has to go to the inside to defend the 15 of Stack, and right now they're losing time to that 19 of Dressen and the 18 of Mittelholzer.
Yeah, Greg Seitz last time around, like you mentioned, new fastest lap of the race, a 1:53.319, and ultimately wasn't that much quicker than Thomas Ingberg, because Thomas Ingberg back into the 53.6s, so he managed to sort out whatever was going on, and now we need to sort out whatever is going on here, because they're all popping out of the slipstream to try and take a slightly different line through the first couple of corners. It didn't quite work out for the number 18. David Mitzelholzer actually went a little bit deep, drops back towards the battling pair behind. And once again, Mark Dennison's just given a little bit of breathing room. He's certainly not the quickest in this group, but he keeps being given these little gifts that are just allowing him to stay out with overtaking range lap after lap after lap.
And he's parking that car right where he needs to be on the inside. And that's a car off right ahead. Who is that? That's the 13 of Stewart's, who is all by himself. All of a sudden, he's now dropping rapidly behind here. He's able to hold position in front of Fabio Berchhold in P14. But all of a sudden, that 13 machine has fallen off significantly, and now he's going to be part of this mid-pack battle, and now advance all these drivers up one place and move Mittelholzer up into the top 10. It's been a good drive from the 18, and there it is, just into the S's, and unfortunately, we do need a bit of cone safety out there. That is the second time we've seen cones massacred in this race, and we hope that no more cones fall victim today, as Stewart's was running in P8, kind of all on his lonesome, and then kapow, like a bowling ball into a couple bowling pins, just nowhere to go.
Strike. Well, it was a nice one, to be fair. It could have gone a lot worse. He had an oversteer moment through one of the quickest points on the circuit, managed to gather it up, and I think he'll be quite happy that he's not ended up with 3 wheels on his car after all that.
So Stewart's now falls behind this group. Dressen again on the inside, playing defensive. We're on the final lap. Thomas Ingberg and Greg Seitz have already crossed the line, and so too has much of the top 10 until now. Here comes Mark Dressen in P9. We'll finish off this penultimate lap, and we'll go on to the final lap. Here comes the inside of Andrew Berry, trying to get back around the 18 in the first corner. He thinks about it, thinks better of it, doesn't want to lunge down there and ruin both of their races. Again, this 18 has probably been the most impressive drive out of this group. He was P14 just 5 laps ago, and he's been able to methodically work his way into the top 10. Mark Denison has had a beautiful defensive drive. If he holds on, he'll take a P9 and maybe some nice I rating and safety rating to go with it. But here they go through the S's. No one really making a move at the moment. The 18 is going to get a huge draft, though, coming through this middle sector into 8 and 9. We're going to go under the bridge, and Mittelholzer, we've seen him dive already today. Might try another dive here in just a moment's time. As now we look back to the leader, Greg Seitz and Joshua Chen unfortunately had an issue early in the race. There was a collision, and Thomas Ingberg was in 3rd place, ready to capitalize, and he has capitalized. He's kept Greg Seitz behind into the Cassier Triangle. 16, 17, and 18 goes the 5 machine. Ingberg is going to take the win here at Suzuka, and it was a beautiful drive from the 5. Just staying mistake-free is all it took to take the victory today. Greg Seitz comes home in 2nd, able to recover to get a podium, and Jack Ashton takes home a podium place. We now go back to this fight. The 18 looking to try and impress me even more is now on the right side of Dressen through 130R. A brilliant move by the 18, and now here comes the scrap on the edge of the top 10. Can Andrew Berry break into the top 10? No. Denesen keeps him behind. A little bit loose goes the 14. They're going to be a drag race to the start-finish line for the top 10. Mittelhoser comes home in P9, and Denesen comes home in P10. And that was an exciting finish in this med pack. Brilliant stuff from everyone really in that group.
Oh, it was fantastic. I got to feel a little bit for Mark Denison. I'm always a fan of a defensive drive. It's not always the most exciting thing to watch, but it takes a lot of skill. So credit to Mark for holding almost everybody off. In the end, both Frank and David got through, but I think he would have taken that given the massive pack behind him at one stage.
Yeah, and it was a lot of chaos in that midfield. They kind of lost touch, really, with those top 7 of Zeiger, Lushkin, Martinez, Barb, Ashton, Sainz, and Imberg. But the fight amongst themselves, they were really going for it all at the end. And I think, again, the driver that most impressed me there was Mittelhoser. He came from P14, P15, all the way up to P9, just methodically working his way through. A really good drive from the 18 machine. But I think a brilliant drive from Imberg as he takes home the win. Greg Sainz recovers from that spin he had with the King of Chins, Joshua Chin, and Jack Ashton rounds out the podium. Barb was able to get Martinez somewhere during that fight. He finishes only 3/10 ahead in P4, and Hugo Martinez a brilliant drive in the 6 in P5. Nikita Lashkin in P6. Thomas Zeiger, a little bit of a mistake, but comes home P7. Frank Nguyen able to get around that midfield battle, gets home in P8. Again, I said Mittelhoser really impressed me in that 18 machine, comes home P9, and Mark Denesen, a brilliant defensive drive, is able to steal a top 10 finish. Andrew Berry was fighting hard and hard, but sadly only a P11 for him. Tony Stack in P12. Shane Stewart's went off all on his lonesome. Took a few cones out with him for good measure in P13. Joshua Chin, we mentioned his struggles. He had a collision with Greg Seitz, had to come down pit road. Somehow did manage in all that fighting to get Fabio Berchhold, who finishes in P15. Emil Bergstoff in the number 4 had issues in P16. Nguyen in the 17 dropped to 17th. Mitchell Green, we saw an issue for him early in P18. Remedy went off as well in P19, and Everett Paddock had a huge collision underneath the bridge. He retired 12 laps down as the last car in the field in P20. Well, that race had a bit of everything in it. We had domination at the front from Edinburgh. We also had a good fight at the beginning with Sainz and the King of Chins, Joshua Chin, and it only gets better from here as we're just 3 weeks into the season. Next week we head to Barber, another close racing circuit, then to another oval, Phoenix Raceway, then to another North American track in Virginia and Sebring back-to-back, and then 2 Formula 1 level circuits, Silverstone and Imola. Then we head to another oval, USA Speedway, a track that's going to be very exciting and very unique on the schedule. Then the last 2 weeks are really treats to behold. A race at Spa and a race at Road Atlanta. It can only get more exciting from here.
Oh, it's going to be great, isn't it? You just look down the list. They're all absolutely iconic circuits. Barber, Phoenix, Virginia, Sebring. And then, like you mentioned, some of the F1 fans will be happy with this. You've got Silverstone, Imola, and Spa on there. For me, we had Watkins Glen last season running out the championship. We got Road Atlanta this time. It just keeps getting better, doesn't it?
And if this race proves anything, it proves that these road courses are going to be very entertaining and very awesome to watch. Again, this is the first one of a proper road race we've had. I know Long Beach is a road course, but it was a street circuit, a lot different than, you know, Suzuka and Virginia, where there's plenty of runoff room. But this was a definite good showing, I think, for everyone in the field. And this series is still very competitive. I mentioned Greg Seitz has been one of the most dominant drivers, but it wasn't even him on the top step. He still got a podium, but it wasn't him.
No. And that's what we're looking forward to, isn't it? These road circuits, they have a habit of mixing it up, and the drivers are now aware of who's good on what type of circuit. We've had 3 rounds, like you mentioned. We had street circuit, then we had oval, and now we've had road racing. Between those 3, you've tested all of the skill sets required going forwards. Now you've got to try and improve on the one that you were bad at in order to take the championship.
So plenty to look forward to, and plenty to look forward to still today on RaceSpotTV. After this wraps up, we're going to be heading over to Friday Night Primetime. It's the IR01s at the Nürburgring. Should be fun to watch, but this is going to wrap us up here from Suzuka. For myself, for Tom Davis, and for our producer, Tyler Maxton, and to everyone here at RaceSpot, we wish everyone a happy new year and hope that it's better than 2020, and we'll see you next week.